these days, I will start a vlog not looking like a hot mess. I very much lean into the like unhinged marketing. You get the real me, no makeup, hair's a mess. Yes, I am wearing the sweater from yesterday. It's just one of those days. Hello, welcome to another reading vlog. It is a Friday, and I meant to start this like 2 days ago, to be quite honest. And then I don't remember what happened on Wednesday, but yesterday sucked. Yesterday work sucked eggs hard. Like it was just not great. I was like an anxiety riddled mess. And then I spent a good chunk of the evening like in frustrated tears. Like I'm a crier in general. I cry with books, I cry with movies, I cry with certain commercials and stupid Instagram reels. But one of my like most obnoxious things that I do is I cry when I'm frustrated or when I'm mad. And I was frustrated yesterday. So I was like, you know what? We're gonna start with a clean slate today. But I did want to get this vlog started because I have some reading updates for you. So I mentioned that I was gonna be starting The Gentleman's Gambit by Evie Dunmore, which I have here. But I haven't, in fact, started it. Hoping to start it this weekend. But I have been listening to the audiobook for Hamnet, and I'm like, according to the Libby app, 40% in, roughly. So I've gotten a good amount of the book done, and I'm really enjoying it, which is why I wanted to come on and talk about it. I think in my last vlog I had said that I thought it was kind of like an origin story for Hamlet. Hamlet is named after Shakespeare's son, Hamnet, and while that it might be true that Shakespeare immortalized his son in one of his most famous tragedies, the book doesn't really feel like it's about Hamnet. He's like the focal point at the beginning of the book because it is a plague book, and his sister is struck with the plague and he's trying to find adults to help him. But the book really seems to focus on the relationship between Shakespeare and his wife, Agnes. And I have such a crush on the character of Agnes in this book. Like, she gives me life. She is this kind of witchy, bewitching character. Like, there's a lot of lore around her and her existence in the village, and she has a kestrel, is that what the bird is called? And there is just something about her, like I'm completely smitten with the character, and it really does at this point feel like the book is largely talking about how Agnes and Shakespeare end up married, which is a whole interesting story. But what is fascinating to me is that they never really like call Shakespeare Shakespeare. Like, they don't use his name. He's the husband or the brother or the Latin teacher or something like that. He's this kind of nameless entity in this book, and he himself says very little, or has said very little so far. But I'm really enjoying it, and kind of just to give a little bit of a synopsis so far, Hamnet and his twin Judith are kind of the focal point at the very beginning of the book. Judith feels ill, and it turns out that she has the plague, and so he's running around trying to find someone, whether it's a doctor or his mother or another relative who can come tend to his sister. And in the course of that kind of present day in the book, you're also getting sort of backstory on the familial dynamics between Agnes and her family, Shakespeare and his family, in particular his father and his sister, and then also once their families kind of merge, the dynamics within them. So it feels very much like a family drama or a marital drama at this point. And like I said, I'm really enjoying it. The writing is phenomenal, which I kind of expected because I've heard so many good things about Maggie O'Farrell. But as a first impression, I'm thrilled. Like, I am really, really thrilled and can't wait to listen to it. I've listened to it while I've been cleaning. I've listened to it while I've been running errands. I listened to it at the gym yesterday when I was on the rowing machine and doing a leg day. So I've basically taken every opportunity to do that. So I wanted to give an update there. I need to get back to work though, so I will check in a little bit later once I have more reading updates or fun things that I can report back to you on. Good morning. I hope you're doing well. It's Saturday. And honestly, you did not miss much of anything yesterday because I just worked, I shoveled snow, I vegged out on the couch and ate a delicious? That was delicious and scrumptious combined into one word there. It's early, okay? It's not even 8:30 yet. Anyway, it's a new day. I figured I'd take you along with me for some of my adulting and errands and chores and things because that's what I like to do on a Saturday, even when it is ridiculously cold as it is today. But as you can kind of sort of see, I'm dressed for the gym. I have an arm day today, but I like to do cardio on arm day as well. So I'm going to be doing an hour-long strut walk workout to Queen Bee, which seems like a long time, but I've found that when I'm lip syncing along to Beyonce's greatest hits, it flies by. Like it's an intense workout, but it's good. I like it. I like it a lot. It's the only way I've been able to actually stay on a treadmill for that length of time. But I did want to talk to you a little bit about some books before I set off because I did start reading The Gentleman's Gambit by Evie Dunmore this morning. I woke up very, very early, before 5. I read for maybe an hour, hour and a half, got about 20% of the way through the book, so I'm around page 80 or so right now. Evie Dunmore is a historical romance author that is an instant buy for me. I've read all 3 of the other books in her League of Extraordinary Women series. This is book 4. And they are kind of revolving around this set of suffragette women living in Victorian England. They're very much fighting for women's equality on kind of all fronts, not just the right to vote, but right to property, right to divorce, like all of these types of things. It's just all consuming women's equality and women's liberation in Victorian England. The characters, the women themselves, are all very strong-willed, independent thinkers, and they all have their own little quirks. The main character in The Gentleman's Gambit, the female in the romantic couple, is Katrina, who is the daughter of a Scottish earl. She is bookish. She's academic. Like that's her happy place, working at her father's assistant. She writes books, like that's her happy place. And some of the descriptions of her kind of make her appear as this somewhat stereotypical spinster. But in this book, she is, I wouldn't say chaperoning, because in the Victorian context, that's something entirely different. But she is kind of hosting Elias, who is from the Middle East. He's come here because he's supposedly going to be cataloging some things at Oxford, which is why he's kind of come into her father's orbit. Her father is a Don and a professor at Oxford. And anyway, he's kind of there under false pretenses, as we find out, because he wants to take back antiquities that have been taken from his country and return them to their rightful place. So we're kind of talking like almost like Elgin Marble type stuff. Basically, he wants to take antiquities that British citizens have looted from their home countries back to whence they came. And he's going to try to convince them to let this happen, which, considering how we're still talking about the Elgin Marbles in 2023, I don't think that's going to go over very well, but we'll suspend disbelief for a moment. And if that doesn't work, it sounds like there might be some like heisty type stuff in play. Regardless, these two characters have met while in Scotland under compromising circumstances, okay? Our lovely Katrina, well, she was swimming nude in the loch, as one does, and Elias happened upon her while he was walking around the property, supposedly bird watching. But he didn't see a bird. He got full frontal of Katrina naked. And so that is how they meet. And it means that things are a little bit awkward. And it's kind of lust at first sight. Like, they're both kind of sexually attracted to each other from the get-go. But things are awkward. Like, they are. It just is. And now they're kind of in each other's orbits. So it's a little bit tense. I wouldn't say that it is necessarily an enemies to lover type thing. I feel like more it is this lust at first sight situation. I will be interested to kind of see how the like emotional connection evolves here. Just because as of right now, all of their interactions are just a teensy bit awkward because of how they met. And that's okay, but I am interested in seeing how they kind of start to connect. I'm assuming it's through academia. She's a linguist and has taught herself Arabic, so they speak in Arabic a little bit, and so there is that kind of mind melding there and that appreciation for someone like Katrina teaching herself this language that is so complex and so very different from her own. So there is like these moments when you see kind of respect, mutual respect appear, but I am interested in kind of seeing what else happens there. But now it is like 8:30, 8:45, so I'm gonna hit the road. I'll take you along for the ride, as I mentioned. First stop is the gym. I really don't want to go outside. It is really, really cold. Like really, 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 really cold. Hello again. It is, I don't even know what time in the afternoon. It's not late. Let me put it that way. It's like maybe 2:30, but I am wiped out. It was not the best plan for me to do nearly 2 hours at the gym and then proceed to do my Target run, grocery shopping, Amazon returns, and other little errands before coming home and eating and showering. I felt so gross by the time I came home, and I was also just like ravenous. Absolutely ravenous. Oh my god. I wanted to check in because while I was doing all my errands, I was listening to audiobooks. I didn't listen to an audiobook at the gym. When I'm doing cardio and weights, especially like upper body, because I am a weakling, I need like bump, bump, bump. I need like a bass and like momentum. I need music. But regardless, while I was driving around, while I was in the shops, I was listening to Hamnet. So I wanted to give you an update. I'm like 60 something percent. I think I'm very close to like 70% to be quite honest. So I've had a good run with the book so far. And my impression right now is that this book is probably going to be somewhere between a 4 to 5 star. I would imagine. It is just so good. So good. And I mean, oh my word. I don't even know where to begin. This was definitely a good book to pick up kind of as I'm getting out of a reading slump, because it is this sort of book that makes me remember how much I love reading, and historical fiction reading is a big part of that. So I was just like, yeah, this is a good one. I'm late to the party, I know. Like, Maggie O'Farrell came out with another book, which I do own, so I'll need to read that soon. But this is good. So basically, I think to me, what it is that I'm kind of in love with all of the main characters at this point. I already spoke about Agnes. She's wonderful. Hearing about the early days of their marriage, her giving birth to her children, her pregnancies, sort of this intuitive way that she understands people, and like the kind of witchy way in which she can sometimes know things before other people can, is just mesmerizing. But like the character of Hamnet, and even his twin sister Judith, who is the one that at the beginning of the book is struck down by the plague, they're just delightful. I love like the childlike innocence that Maggie O'Farrell is like able to convey with particularly Hamnet's POV. And I mean, some of the most fascinating sections were like the author trying to explain how the plague got into the Shakespeare home. Like, how did Judith get infected? Like, through history class, we've heard about like the plague, it was spread by rats and like the fleas, like, but the way that she like explains, she gives you like a roadmap of like, here's the little flea and here's how Judith ended up getting it. And so that was really interesting to see kind of the cause and effect going there. But I was in the supermarket, and I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a scene between the twins. Judith is very, very sick. And like, I was near tears. I actually had to stop listening to the audiobook because I was just like, if I continue to hear and see the like love between these two people, the whole thing was just so heart-wrenching to see the connection. But I'm very interested in the continuation of this feeling like a family novel. Like, it does really feel like a multi-generational family saga, even though I know that for the most part it's fairly contained. Like, it's not one of those books that's covering like decades and generations that I sometimes read. Like, this is very truncated in that way, but like to have the grandparents and Shakespeare and his siblings and Agnes and her siblings, and then the children there, and all of them kind of in this world, in this orbit, and seeing the interactions between them, it really, I know a lot of it has to do with just the marriage between Agnes and Shakespeare, but I love the family dynamics. And I mean, not all of the family dynamics are healthy. There's like Shakespeare and his father in particular. Ooh, that man gives me the willies. But it's just seeing all the different dynamics, and especially the sibling bonds, like Eliza and Shakespeare, Agnes and Bartholomew, Judith and Hamnet, like seeing those kind of pairings of brother and sister is heartwarming and gut-wrenching. So yeah, I like I'm loving it, basically, as you can probably tell from my gushing. So that's where I am with that. I think what I'm gonna do is legitimately veg out on the couch, watch some TV. There's a very, very good chance that I will end up napping. And then once I've gotten a second wind, I would like to resume reading The Gentleman's Gambit. But that's all depending on how much strength I can rally. Because it might not be much. And for now, I'm just gonna curl up on this couch with my blanket and potentially nap. That's the plan. I think that's the plan. I think that's a good plan because, oh my God, have I mentioned how sore I am already, by the way? Like, ow. Like, all I want is to be inert on my couch for a little while. Good morning. Happy Sunday. It is very cold today. Like, very, very cold. I woke up this morning and it said it was 5 degrees Fahrenheit outside. I'm just glad I don't really have to leave my house today. Like, really not planning to even step foot outside my door if I can help it. Like, that's where we are. Last night was more or less me just watching TV until I fell asleep. So you didn't miss much of anything. Honestly, I've had a very, very slow start to the morning. I FaceTimed with my parents like I normally do on a Saturday or Sunday morning, and then did some reading and just kind of stayed in bed for as long as possible. And now I'm kind of up, kinda. But I did read a little bit more of The Gentleman's Gambit, which I'm enjoying, but I'm still kind of waiting to feel the like spark and chemistry between Elias and Katrina that I felt with the other characters from the other books in the series. I feel like right now, at least, it's a little bit more telling rather than showing. Like, I wish it were a little bit more like instinctual, intuitive, like it was an emotional way that I felt the pull between them. But that could all change. I'm only like a quarter of the way through the book, so there's a way to go. And excuse my heat. Florence likes to make noise when it's cold. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am. I am now seeing how like chess is playing a part in this book, because obviously the title reminds me of The Queen's Gambit, which if you have not watched on Netflix, I would 10 out of 10 recommend. I do not know how to play chess, and I took forever to watch it for that reason, because I was like, well, I don't know anything about chess. Will I enjoy it? Great, great series. So this title felt like a nod to that, which I think is actually a nod to either the name of like a play or the name of a game. Like they name certain maneuvers and things in chess. And also there's a chessboard on the cover. Sorry, I don't have the book down here. But that's been interesting to see how that's gonna play a part, and I'm hoping that it plays an even bigger part. I just wish I was getting more of the connection between them, but it is early days, so I'm not ruling it out that it could happen. But yeah, that's kind of where I am with the reading right now. I am hoping to do a little bit more reading, really just hoping to use today to kind of relax. I think first things first though, I'm going to do my hair and get that out of the way. And then I have like a few little odds and ends around the house that I might take you along with me, decorating the back of the couch a little bit so it doesn't look so empty and sad, really. Some organizational things that I did, some meal prep things. That's really the extent of what today is. Like, I really want to take it as easy as possible. The work week last week was really exhausting, really stressful, as I said, kind of at the beginning of this vlog. So I just want to kind of recover and get myself into the right mindset for tomorrow. But yeah, we'll check in a little bit, I'm sure. So my Sunday did not go exactly to plan. I had envisioned today as being a huge day of cooking, a day when I was going to use all of the frames that I bought yesterday to like put stuff that I own already, and I have literally a box of art in said frames, and use them around the house. And when I say that not a single frame fit a single piece of art, I'm not even exaggerating. Not a single piece. So this is what we have currently. But it's okay. It's okay. I got meal prep done. After I finish this, I'm gonna finish with my dinner, which should be ready in 10-15 minutes. It's fine. It's fine. It's just not what I had planned. But regardless, I shockingly finished Hamnet today. That was not the book that I thought I would finish for this vlog. Like, this morning I had 35% left, roughly. And when I say anything that I was doing today, that was playing. And I was listening to that audiobook, which is fine, normal. But I had 2.5 hours left still after the things that I did around the house. I sat on my couch in this book's thrall that entire time. I did nothing but listen to this book except occasionally respond to text messages. Like, it was absolutely wild. The book had me in such a chokehold. So much of a chokehold. So yeah, it is 5 stars for me. I absolutely loved it. I thought the writing was stunning. It's a sort of book that I kind of want the physical copy so that I can like annotate it and mark the like lines and phrases that just struck me so vividly. Speaking of vivid, the characters were incredible. Agnes is the main character in every sense of the word. She's just beautiful as a literary character, and I just seeing her go through all of her emotions, it was just, I felt them all. They felt so authentic and so much like what a grieving mother would feel and experience immediately and in the days, weeks, months, years afterwards. It just felt so real, so heartbreaking, and I mean, I'm still processing because it was so good. I mean, this is definitely a sad book. It is a book that is really about loss and grief, and what I found really interesting is that it's also about how within a family unit, each individual copes with loss differently, and it gives you insights into how the different ways that people grieve can actually cause a bit of like turmoil within that family unit. It can cause tension and miscommunications and confusion and anger and frustration. And you see kind of all of that within this family unit. And it just, it was, it was great. And I mean, I think too, what I really liked about the book is that this sort of historical aspects of it felt really well researched and really well done. It didn't feel like, you know, it didn't feel like Bridgerton or like Rain, where you play fast and loose with the details and it's like, because it's quote unquote fiction. Like, I loved the fact that in her author note at the end, she explains why William Shakespeare's wife is named Agnes in the book, instead of Anne Hathaway, like most of us know her. I like that she explained, you know, there's not much known about the family, and so this is all fictionalized, and this is kind of her piecing things together. I liked that she gave her writing that sort of credibility, you know? So there was a lot to commend about this book, and I'm sorry, my heat's gonna start cracking in a second. Hold on, one moment. Okay, it's still clicking in the background, but not as bad. I don't know. I'm kind of obsessed to the point that I promptly went on Libby and put a hold on The Marriage Portrait, which is Maggie O'Farrell's other book, which I think came out, I want to say summer of last year. I own the physical book, but it never hurts to have it as an audiobook too. So we'll see when that comes in. That's a different time period and all of that. But I'm a huge fan of her writing. And I feel like if I like The Marriage Portrait for the same reasons that I like this, that Maggie O'Farrell could become like an instabuy author for me. Like, I really enjoyed it. The one thing I will say is that I could definitely see where some people would say that the book is a little bit slow. It is very character driven, which I think lends itself to being a slower paced book. But those are the types of books that I love. But I could see where someone might say this takes a little bit longer to get into, or that it's a little too slow for them. But I think it's worth the effort because those feels, it hit me in the feels so hard. And, you know, I feel like if you like Shakespeare, this is an interesting book to read, because Shakespeare looms large, but he's also not present. Much of like it would have been in Agnes's life during the Elizabethan era, because he was in London while she was on Stratford upon Avon, sorry. So he looms large, but he's never named. You feel his influence, you feel his presence in a certain way, but this is not a book about him. This is really about his wife. This is really about his children. And I kind of liked that for this book too. But anyway, it is getting late. It is Sunday. I'm kind of hungry, so I want to cook the rest of my dinner. I'm doing chicken sausage and peppers, and I'm very excited. So I want to do that. And then I want to veg out on my couch and do absolutely nothing until basically work tomorrow. So that's what I'm gonna do. But thank you so much for watching this vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, remember to hit that thumbs up button or subscribe if you're not already. And I'll see you next time. Bye.